I'm now going to cover non-standard pivot tables. Really should be titled non-basic pivot tables. So there are multiple ways to use the pivot table method, and I'm going to cover some of these other ways. So the sort of standard way to use a pivot table is to set, the index. So set the vertical grouping, and then the horizontal grouping. We can just say race, and the aggregation, so is values, salary, and then the ag func can be mean. So this is the same table we've been producing before. Now, what you could do is, let's just say I only give it a single grouping column like this. So I can just group by department, and now I just get a single column. There's no pivoting over here. It's not by sex. You could do it the other way and get it. You can actually pivot that one column, so you can pivot it, but you can. The point here is that you can just group it by a single column, and this is the same. Now it's the actually same exact result that you would get by group by dot ag, and this time we get to rename it. So salary equals. All right, so this is now the exact same as you see with the group by. So you can do that with a pivot table. All right, so it's a single column grouping. All right, now you can group more. You can have more than two grouping columns. You can have 3 or more grouping columns. Let me just pass this down over here. Let me put the columns back to race like this. So here's our original. What you can do is use a list over here. You can group by, like, say, department and sex over here. Now you have a much larger pivot table. So now this column is all of the female fire department employees, and this value is all the Asian female fire department employees. This is their average salary. So you can put as many columns as you want over here. You can put them over here as well. And so that's how you do more than 2 grouping columns. You can also have multiple aggregating columns. So we've done this with group by as well. We don't have another column to aggregate, so I'm just going to use, we're going to create a column called experience, will be the number of years. So I'm going to take 2019, this is when the data was pulled, subtract from it the year of the hire date column, and that'll give us the years of experience. So here the first employee is 18 years of experience. So let's go over here and do this. Let's return this back to just department, just to keep it simple. Now instead of salary, we'll have salary and experience. So hopefully you figured out this was the right way to do it, because you use a list, and that's how pandas works. For one thing, you use a single string or a single value. For multiple things, you use a list. And here, now it's a little bit, starts to become increasingly more difficult to read. And if I round it, it might be a little bit easy. Oh, so I should not round that actually, because experience will just go down. But I can at least round it to the nearest maybe 1 decimal place for experience. So there we go. All right. So here, all of these first columns, these are the average experience. Over here is the average salary. So you can have multiple aggregating columns. So pretty cool. You can also have multiple aggregating functions. So again, let's just go back to department and race. Now let's say I wanted to find the mean and the count, so the number over here. So I could do that as well. And let me round this just to 1 decimal place, just to get rid of that. All right, so over here, I now have I have multiple aggregating functions. It's on the same aggregating column, so salary over here. So I'm getting the mean of the salary and the count of the salary for all races by department. So a lot of information on this table. Now you can go crazy and have multiple grouping columns, multiple aggregating columns, and multiple aggregating functions. And actually I add the margins over here as well. So this is a very large table. I'm just showing the first 6 rows and the first 10 columns. So it actually goes much more than that just to fit this on the screen. But this is just an example to show you that you can put a lot of information in a single pivot table. This is not necessarily a good idea because it reduces the readability. So you need to think about your pivot tables and not try to jam in so much information, even though it is possible. It may just make it harder to read. All right, so that's a more advanced usage of pivot table, and creating many different ones with multiple aggregating columns, multiple aggregating functions, and multiple grouping columns.